Welcome to our final episode of Cooking with Sue and Roger. Today it's going to mostly be cooking with Sue, and I'm going to show you how to make ramen, which you probably already know, but this is a healthier version. This one's for brain food. So it doesn't look like the ramen packages you're used to, but you can pick this up at Meijer. It's whole grain and gluten-free. The very first thing you need to do with ramen is create a tasty broth, right? So it's true that Roger cooks with oil, and I mostly use things like veggie broth. So I have some veggie broth in this wok. You don't need a wok, but that's what I'm going to use. And to it, I'm going to add kind of the Asian trinity, and that is onions, which I have here, garlic, and ginger. So right now, it doesn't look like I have much liquid at all in my pan, and you do have to play with that a little bit. As you can see, it looks pretty dry, so I'm going to slosh a little bit more on the bottom. But you don't want to boil the veggies, you do want them to saute. So what you want to do is saute these vegetables for just a couple of minutes. Remember, you don't have to add more liquid unless your pan is dry. So when you water saute, you can use wine or beer or veggie stock or soy sauce mixed with water. Anything that flavors the vegetables but just doesn't add a lot of oil. And for a lot of recipes, I don't think you need to use oil at all, but some maybe yes, but most no. So now that I've got these simmering, I'm just going to explain quickly what is going to go in next. I'm going to let them kind of do their own thing for a minute. I took photos of these, but this is Napa cabbage, and this is bok choy. And these are both considered superfoods, but what I like about them is they're pretty plain. The bok choy reminds me a little bit of celery, and the Napa cabbage is, I don't think it really has much of a taste at all, but they have tons of nutrients in them. So they go in my veggie saute. Because I'm not really trying to saute so much anymore, these don't need to be sauteed, I'm going to add some of this broth, and I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm just going to let it cook down for about 5 minutes. Okay, so the only thing we did off screen was I added the rest of the stock. So what we have now is these vegetables have been cooked down, and when you saw the photograph of the bok choy, you saw that it had both like a celery-like part at the bottom and green leaves. So I put the celery pieces in, or the celery-like pieces in, but these are the green leaves, and they're going to go in now because they just need a couple minutes to cook. And I'm also adding, to make this more, have a more Asian flavor, I'm adding some soy sauce, and I'm just going to stir that all around, and we're going to add our ramen cakes, and then we're going to immediately put the lid back on and let them sit in the water for a minute to soften before we separate them. I did want to mention before I go in here that if rice ramen isn't to your taste, or if it's a little bit expensive for your budget, you might try another kind of, these are Japanese style soba noodles, which are also delicious. So feel free to explore. What we're trying to avoid is the highly processed, like simple carbs of regular ramen, and those gooey packets that have MSG and a bunch of other crazy stuff that might not be so good for your brain. Okay, I don't think you can see this because it's all under the, but I am taking these restaurant chopsticks that I brought home from got from my Chinese takeout, and I am separating, and I have to do it underneath all the veggies, so sorry about that. You're just gonna have to believe me that the noodles are coming apart, and they cook in here for about 2 or 3 minutes. So what I'm gonna do, because they will continue to cook after I turn the heat off, is add this last wonderful Asian ingredient, which is called miso. which you can also get at Meijer, and I think it's in the dairy case. But because it's fermented and has all that great probiotic stuff, you don't put it in until the end, and you just kind of swirl it in here, and basically after a minute or two it melts into the water, and it's kind of a little funky tasting, a little salty. It just adds this really nice umami taste, and I don't know if you've heard of the word umami, but it's meant to be the sixth taste. Umami is earthy, meaty. That's the taste of that. All we have left to do now is plate it up and put on the garnishes. So I will be doing that as soon as I've let that sit here for just another minute to make sure the noodles are fully cooked. Okay, we're ready. It's time. Roger's hungry. And I always start with a big thing of noodles and then add the broth, because someone sometimes says I put too much noodles and not enough broth. So that seems almost perfect, and we're going to garnish that with a little bit of scallions and some toasted sesame seeds and a couple dashes of hot sauce. Let's just see this. You can use sriracha or whatever appeals to you, but that is a really healthy way to eat ramen, and as you can see, it comes together really quickly, so no excuses.
Okay, I'm ready to try it. Here we go. See how it tastes. A little spicy. It's umami all over the place. Salty and tasty. Go for it.